Consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission, to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Starr. I'm the host for The Universe Between Your Ears. I am joined today by a woman that I have been anxious to talk to for about 5 months. My co-host is missing in action today for some reason. Gabby may join us. But Jacqui Letran is here to join me on the other side of the country. Say hi, Jacqui.
Hey, it's Jacqui.
So Jacqui is a multi-award winning author, international speaker. She's a nurse practitioner, and she's founder of Healing Minds. She's also the host of the Stop the Bully Within podcast, which is brand new. And Jacqui teaches that success and happiness are achievable by all, regardless of current struggles and circumstances. A gifted and energetic mindset mentor, Jacqui dedicates her life's work to help her clients and students transform their inner critic into their best friend and cheerleader so they can overcome any obstacles and create the life they deserve. Yay, Jacqui, finally.
Yay, I know, right? This is awesome. I love technology.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how much you remember. You and I met at that podcast event in September.
Yes.
Right? San Diego. And we were sitting side by side at one point at the same table. And I heard a little bit about what you were into, just a little bit. And I want to talk to you. And but you know, things are going on, and you couldn't just start a conversation. And next thing you know, we're split. And I remember just like, I still want to talk to you, and it never happened. And so we're 5 months down the road now, and when we both started podcasts at the same time, and I come to find out that it's all the same stuff. We were talking before we started the recording here. I was reading what she's into, and it's like reading my own stuff. So this is going to be fun. I'm excited.
I'm completely excited. Yes. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for showing up. At least two of us showed up. So let's start with the podcast. You know, when I first read the title, Stop the Bully Within, and that's the title. You've got a brand new book by that same title, right?
I'm working on that book.
Oh, okay. All right. So it will be brand new. It's more than
yes.
It's brand new. But when I first read the title, what hit me was stop the bullying. You know, because it's a big thing now. It's all over the place, and we got to stop bullying. And then I read it again and said, "Oh no, this is Stop the Bully Within," which is a different thing.
Yes, completely different thing.
That is the area that I think should be focused on, because that's the area that can be controlled.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah,
bullying is a natural part of life, and you can punish people and all that, and they should be, but you can't stop human instinct and things, but you can change how people deal with it. So now
definitely.
Now that I've robbed all of that, go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, you know, there's just so much information and resources out there for the traditional bullying, you know, one person against another or a group against a person. And there's not a whole lot of information out there about the internal bully. And I'm going to go as far as to say that even if you were bullied in the traditional way by another person, if you are not your own bully, that external bully cannot affect you nearly to the level that it could, right? So for example, you and I, let's pretend, Tim, that we're I don't know, middle schoolers, right? And we're on the playground. And I'm like, Tim, you know, I don't like you because you're funny looking and whatever, you know? And you're like, wow, that girl's crazy. Or whatever, I'm just going to go hang out with my friends. And you never took what I say to heart.
Right.
Are you going to be affected? You're not. But when you take what I say and then you go back home or in the playground, you're like, oh my gosh, I think that girl's right. There is something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be here. I'm a nobody. That's when it becomes a problem. So that's what I'm doing right now with my Stop the Bully Within podcast is I'm on this mission to really bring up awareness of how damaging our internal talks are, how often we do it without even recognizing it, and also to give people tools and techniques to stop that pattern and reclaim themselves.
Cool. First thing that popped into my head as you were talking about this was, I don't know that anybody is really going to be affected by one person saying something to them, right? Unless they're somehow super subjective. I don't know. But when there's more than one person saying the same thing or similar things, or if it's just an ongoing pattern of stuff, even if it's one person who's repeatedly doing it, that's
Right.
when it's harder to resist, right?
It's definitely harder, but it's not impossible.
Right.
So yeah, I throughout life, you're going to experience all sorts of difficulties, right? And some are going to be more difficult than others. But the thing is, if you go inwards and recognize the strength within yourself and recognize that no matter what's happening around you, you have 100% control in how you react to that. And the stories that you make about that situation, that story that you make can either hold you back or move you forward. It is definitely your choice.
So how do you, let's say you're talking with a kid and, maybe the conversation at home is not so supportive and, or worse, right? There's plenty of those situations. How does somebody who's already sort of behind the eight ball, how do you suggest that they get started to change their mindset and start to come out from this kind of stuff?
That's is a great question. And it's not a super easy answer, but one of the things that I work on helping them to see is that the thing that are happening to them, that they feel are happening to them, isn't because of who they are. Right? So let's say I'm home and my parents are abusive towards me, and it can be verbal or physical or sexual, but they're doing these things to me, or so I feel, right? And it's easy for me to blame myself. There's something wrong with me. I'm unlovable. I'm damaged good. I'm something. I'm, calling myself names or labeling myself like that. But when you pause and you recognize the things that people are doing, even though it feels like it's against you and to you, it's not really about you. It's about themselves, because if they were a healthy, normal, healthy person, they wouldn't be doing that kind of thing. So to recognize that first and foremost, that this is not really who you are. This is not because you are damaged or not worthy. It's because you just happen to be in a situation where other people are not as healthy. Once you just recognize that part, it's easier to step back and recognize, okay, so I am still a very worthy person. I am still a lovable person. I have a lot to give and a lot to share. And then focusing on those things that you like about yourself to grow those aspects of yourself.
Okay. I don't really want to play devil's advocate, but...
please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
So but if we have the benefit of age and experience, and we can look at these things and understand this in a more objective manner. And then we can tell this to, a 15-year-old, and they can hear the words and go, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm living this. And it's not so easy. And you told me about this last week, and this happened in between, and I can't do what you told me to do. Is it, I'm not sure here's a good talk show host. I'm not sure what my question is. What I'm thinking about is this has been in coming up in conversation on our show a lot, and then for me just in general, the idea that what we really want is to be objective about what's happening in the moment as it's happening, so that we're not just reacting to something, right? We're actually thinking about what's going on and choosing how we react. But that's not something even that most people can do. right? Not even something people are aware that they have an option to do.
Right.
And usually the way it happens is that you learn about this idea, and then you go out and you're cut off in traffic or something, and you react. And an hour, a day, a week later, you think, oh, I could have reacted differently. And then you go back out in traffic the next day and you get cut off again. And you react the same way. And then the timeline between when that happens and your reaction, between that and when you think about it again and go, well, I could have reacted differently, that time gap shortens. And as you keep trying to apply this idea, that gap shortens and shortens and shortens. And pretty soon you're able in the moment to decide, well, I don't have to get mad at this person, because they cut me off in traffic. And it's finally gelled. And so if that makes sense, how do you bring that kind of an idea to kids and get them to wrap their minds around this? The fact that it's not going to happen overnight, something they're going to have to practice doing. How do they stay motivated to keep trying?
Well, it's the way that I work. So a lot of what you're saying, is in terms of how you react in the moment and how through repetition you can shorten that reaction time, right? And be more
Right.
positive in your reaction. That's all a conscious effort. This is all the part of your conscious mind. When I work with clients, I work with their subconscious mind primarily. So what that means is, imagine you have these tapes or movies running in the background of your mind. And when a particular movie is on, you react a certain way, your knee-jerk reaction. Now, what if someone went in with you and helped you to discover those movies that are damaging or negative or is not giving you the results that you want, and pulling those movies from your mind library and installing new movie, healthier, positive movies? What would happen? Your reaction time changes immediately, because that old tape that used to play in the background that says, when someone cuts you off, you get angry. If we take that tape out and it's when someone cut you off, breathe, relax, you're fine, your reaction will change.
Right.
So working on the subconscious part of the mind really hyper speed that whole healing process and that reaction.
Okay. So you're cutting out the middleman is what you're doing, basically, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, because, we all have the power to do, to take care of ourselves, right? And if you can take care of yourself from the root, figure out, you have this particular pattern of behavior or a pattern of being that is no longer effective for you, figure out where that came from, what initiated that whole chain of reaction, and then change it from the root. Once you do it that way, you don't have to stay on top of things as much. I mean, that you still have to continually choose the reactions you want, but you're not doing that whole knee-jerk reaction, then, oh my gosh, now I got to go back and fix it.
Right. So how do you bring this process to groups instead of just one-on-one? Because I can understand, a hypnosis session or something along that line, and dealing with one person at a time, and let's go back and find what your triggers are and erase those, that kind of thing. How do you bring that kind of information to more than one person at a time?
So, the one-on-one, of course, the one-on-one work is going to create the bigger change a lot faster because it's very individualized. But you can affect that kind of change in a group just as easily because we're not that different. We all think, we're all in our head thinking we're the only person that's going through this or the only person feeling this way or wanting this thing. We're not that different. And I've been in this mindset field now for about 7 years. And I discovered that no matter why a person come in to see me, and it could be, a big range from smoking cessation to weight loss to confidence issue to anger issue, depression, anxiety, it doesn't matter what a person come in to see me for. There's only 4 problems. And when you recognize there's only 4 problems, it's a lot easier to work within the group. And the 4 problems are 4 faulty beliefs. We have the belief of somehow we're not enough, right? I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough, tall enough, smart enough, talented enough, something. I'm not enough of something. And if you have that belief, it tends to follow up with, I'm not worthy. I'm not enough of something, therefore I don't deserve something else.
Mm-hmm.
The third faulty belief is I'm not loved or I'm not lovable. And the fourth one is I'm not safe. And that could be I'm not physically safe. Someone's going to harm me physically, or I'm not emotionally safe. Someone's going to, harm me emotionally, or someone's going to take what I say and use it against me. Now, if you work on a group and you recognize there's only 4 problems, and you work on building up the belief of I am enough, I am worthy, I am loved, I am safe. If you walk around life with those 4 beliefs and you feel them so solidly, what problem are there that you can't overcome?
Right. One of the interesting things about doing this sort of personal growth kind of work is that when you start to make a little progress, you at some point you realize that, I'm working on this issue over here, maybe that's really been bothering me, and that's getting better. But I also realize that these other things that used to annoy me, they just don't bother me at all. Or they just don't show up at all. Things just, I used to
change.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to have people who would come to me just from out of the blues. People come want advice they just come complaining about their situation. What should I do? Should I call her? Should I, and you give some solid advice. They're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. And 3 days later, they're back with the same question. Well, what should I do? Well, did you do what I told you? No. And that becomes really frustrating, because then you're just like, you're wasting my time. And so somewhere along the line, I just decided on a conscious level, I don't want these people to be doing this anymore. Nobody in particular, nobody specific. I just don't want these people coming to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And like overnight, it stopped happening. And you have to, you're going to get tested, right? And so when they show up, you got to just tell them, you got to go ask somebody else. I stopped giving advice. But it's amazing how fast the universe will deliver to you pretty much anything you want, if you get clear about what you want.
Yes, I believe it, and I see it all the time. But, going back to what you said about you give great advice and they go back a couple of days later and they haven't done anything with that. There's a really, really good reason for that. And I see that in my clients all the time. And, if I got frustrated every single time I heard, no, I didn't do that, I wouldn't be very effective with my work. My business would not be doing well, and my clients wouldn't be transforming as quickly. So going back to the subconscious mind, right? Because I deal with the subconscious mind primarily. Your subconscious mind's program keeps you in your little box, right? I was listening to one of your previous episodes, and you were saying something about the subconscious mind. To the subconscious mind, change is scary, right? That's in my book. I'm like, wait, yeah. I wrote that. So to the subconscious mind, change is scary, change is dangerous. And when you're looking to change your subconscious mind belief that you will get hurt, not might, you will get hurt. And your subconscious mind's job is to keep you safe, and safe, unfortunately, to the subconscious mind mean stay exactly the way you are, do not change. Right. So even though you have this great information and it sounds absolutely fantastic and you might be super motivated, but the moment you start taking action towards that thing, your fear comes up, your doubts come up, replay of past failures come up, projection of future failures come up. And then what do we do when that happens? We stop. Yep. We climb back into that little box and we sit right there, and the subconscious mind goes, yep, that's all I have to do. Keep him or her safe. Yep. Just play that fear tactic, right? And that's that inner bully that my podcast is about. But also in my podcast, I go over and I mention that the inner bully, the subconscious mind, really isn't trying to harm you or degrade you. It's trying to protect you, again, by keeping you in that tiny little box.
Right. And I want to throw in there that if anybody's listening to that and saying, well, that doesn't make sense, why would it stop me from achieving this goal that I want to do, or stop me from having this wonderful time over here at this party that I want to go to? And, it has nothing to do with rational thought.
Not at all.
It's a hardwired program that is built to keep us from experiencing anything new. anything.
Right. Because
So,
again, the subconscious mind thinks about pain, right?
yeah.
So your belief system get created from significant emotional events. So whether it's a significant good event or a significant bad event, your subconscious mind will create a lot of belief systems surrounding that. And if it's a good event, it's going to do everything it can to try to bring you that event back. But if it's a negative event, your subconscious mind would do everything it can to protect you from re-experiencing something that looks similar. It doesn't even have to be the same, right? A lot of the time, my clients would say, well, my problem with fear of speaking, it started with big groups, and now I can't even have a one-on-one conversation. Your subconscious mind will make connections. And if something sort of kind of looked like the thing that hurt you in the past, it will generalize that, and it will protect you just the same way by creating those fear tactics, again, to keep you safe inside your little box.
Yeah. And the other thing that goes on is that we have all this information coming at us in huge amounts all the time, every second. There's just like so many gigabytes of information. And our brains filter out everything that doesn't already match the programs that are running. So
Yes.
we become conscious and aware of the stuff that reinforces what we believe already, whether it's a conscious belief or not, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing that you can see. I mean, going back to what you said about, those bits of data, I don't remember the number.
It's huge.
My husband and I actually just released episode 3 where we actually talked about that, or maybe episode 4, where we actually had the numbers and all of that. But to kind of summarize, imagine, like you have 7 volumes of average size books, right? And you can look at that as all the information that comes at you every single second. And that's things that are in your immediate environment and things inside your body. Just imagine all the information available is 7 volumes of books. Of those 7 volumes, you can only focus on a couple words.
Yeah.
And that couple of words become what these volumes of books are about to you. I mean, really, when you break it down like that, we get less than 1% of all the information available to us. And that less than 1% is our reality.
It's so much less than that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, it's 0.00 something. I like less than 1%. I'll round up.
Yeah. And not only is it broken down to those 2 words, it's 2 specific words.
Right.
That match what you already believe.
Right.
So you're not learning anything new. So our brains are amazing, scary places sometimes, and can do amazing things. But sometimes it just, it takes a little work. It takes you got to get some new information to make you start thinking a little bit differently.
Right.
And get interested in, maybe I want to go over here.
And it's actually a lot easier than most people think. The problem is that most people don't have the right tools, right? So let's say you I don't know why you would want me to do this, but let's say, hey, Jacqui, I want you to dig, a 6 feet deep hole, right? A 6 by 6. And you gave me a spoon. How long is it going to take me to dig that hole? Forever, right?
Yeah.
But now if you give me some kind of, I don't know what they're called, machinery that dig holes, I can finish that in a couple hours. Mindset is the same way. Once you really understand how your mind works and how to tweak it a little bit, you'll realize how much power you really do have at any given time. You'll still have knee-jerk reaction. You still have to practice. But it becomes so much easier when you realize, the things that you are experiencing, the things that you see, the things that you interpret, you have a choice on how you choose to interpret situations.
Yeah.
And again, that could push you forward or hold you back. It's your choice.
And one of the lessons that I learned from Wayne Dyer early on when I was a kid, basically, which is a long time ago.
We're not going there.
Yeah. Was that it's not the event that happens that has an effect on you going forward. It's how you process the information about that event.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to choose how you process that. In his example, that basically just showed that it wasn't the event that affected. was he was getting ready to speak someplace, and the day before he is speaking, starting the day before, he has no outside input, right? No newspapers, radio, TV, no magazine, no nothing. He's just focused all day long on what he's going to be presenting and doing his thing. And then going into the next day, then he's going on stage, and he was backstage, and he said, this woman backstage said, isn't it terrible about the space shuttle?
Oh no.
What? Well, it blew up. It had happened the day before or something. He knew nothing about it.
Right.
It had no effect on him.
Right.
So it wasn't that something happened. It's just once he gets the information about it, now he gets to decide, what do I want to do with this information? How do I want to look at this? And we do that all day long with all kinds of things. We're always making decisions. We're always presented with new situations, and I'm a little off track on what I was going to say, but welcome to my world. The perspectives about things. One example I like to use is in our culture, death is a big, terrible, traumatic thing, right? It's feared. We mourn because of it. People just like they go depressed, and some people never come out of it.
Right.
All these terrible things, right? In other cultures, it's not necessarily like that.
No, it can be very celebrated.
Yeah. And the example I like to use is the Vikings, where if you had a warrior dies in battle, his family, they must have felt loss, but at the same time, they had to be so proud and so happy for him, because that's the golden ticket straight to Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now he's sitting at the feet of Zeus, or whoever it was. They are not doing the same sort of suffering that we promote here. So somebody died, yes, but they get to choose how they want to look at it. And we can do that with everything in our lives. Anything that happens, we can decide to process it as a lesson or a negative thing.
Most definitely. And the really cool thing about that is, you're doing that all day long on the fly, right? Something happens, you make a decision, but you also can go back in your history and redecide events. I mean, that's what I do with my clients is I really help them to heal by revisiting very painful situations with a fresh pair of eyes. Because in that moment, you have a split second and you make a decision, right? And that decision is tend to base from a fearful place and also from past experiences. So something happened, it links up everything that sort of kind of looked like that in the past, and you have this now belief system or perspective about that incident. But when you go back to a painful incident with the purpose of learning from it and moving forward from it, you can see so many other options. You can see so many other potential ways to look at the situation. And you can pick, that's the thing, is you get to choose which one you want to embrace and move forward with.
Yeah. And you also have the possibility that you can look at something that somebody did to you, and rather than see malice on their side, maybe you can see that this is just the best they knew to do.
Yes.
Or they were trying to do something good, but it just didn't work out that way. Maybe you may have had the wrong information in the first place.
Right. And the first place we go to is self-blame, right? And when you take a step back and you get to look at it more rationally and really see that you did your absolute best at that moment with the information you have. Maybe today, 5 years later, 10 years later, you can see the situation differently because you have more information. Right. But in that moment, you did the absolute best you can. And so when I work with clients, one of the things I really help them do is to understand that and then do forgiveness work. And that is forgiveness of others and forgiveness of self. Because how we judge ourselves is really how we are held back. Once we can really truly forgive ourselves for perceived wrongdoing, and just recognize we are imperfect, and that's perfectly okay. We are learning every single day, and just to move forward and be the better version of yourself every single day.
Well, forgiveness is, whether it's forgiveness of yourself or of somebody else, it's really for you anyway.
It's always for you.
It's always for you. Because they don't know or care, right? They don't know that you're mad at them.
But
you're the one who's suffering in the meantime.
Right. I mean, when you forgive, there are definitely times that the other person is benefiting too, right? But you yourself benefit the most. And it's really interesting. I had a client that we worked on just last week, and I had another session with him this week, and he kind of gave me feedback, which I really, really love. So this is something that happened in his childhood, and he held so much resentment towards his mother. And she passed, and he never forgave her, right? And so we went back, we revisit the situation. He saw it from a different perspective. He saw that it wasn't really about him, and it was really about her. And we did some forgiveness exercises, and he truly forgave her. And he told his sister about it. And his sister was so excited because when he forgave his mother, he freed himself for sure. But he also freed his sister of the burden of having to worry about him. Isn't that cool? I mean, you don't even think about stuff like that. But yeah, forgiveness is for yourself. But the benefit that can come out of that could be very widespread, because now you're not carrying this thing with you anymore. You react to the world differently. You have a different energy about you. And
you're a different person.
Yeah. And it affects the people around you in a very wonderful way.
That's cool. I agree. 100%.
You wrote my book.
I know. I'm just serious. You said something that touched on one of my. I hear things, and people are saying words, and a lot of the time I know what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
The words they're using don't say what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's a phrase that lots of people use. It's, if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or not exactly, excuse me. It's if it happened again, I would do exactly the same thing. Right? Knowing what I know now, it's not possible. Right? You cannot. If you could relive something exactly, you would not have any new information. The only way that you would do it exactly the same way is if you had the exact same information that you had accumulated to that point in your life, right? The same programs going on, the same data set that you're drawing and running through those programs. What they say is, what they mean to say is, if knowing what I know today, if I had to do it all over again, I would do this or that. And I'm mixing things up. I know I am. But
I know what you're saying. Because I'm that person. I went through a lot of pain, a lot of trauma to get to where I am today. Now, would I give up any of the experiences, all that pain and all of that trauma? Absolutely not, because those were amazing lessons for me. And because I went through them, I can use that to help other people transform. And I really like who I am. Mm-hmm. And if something changed in my past, if I didn't have one of those trauma experiences or one of those failures or those pain, I might be a completely different person. So maybe that's kind of where you were heading. It's I wouldn't want to change things, but if I had to go back and I know different things, I know I would make different decisions.
Well, one of the chapters in the book I'm working on is called It's Your Choice, You Have No Choice. And it's basically this idea: we're carrying around these computers, and they work exactly the same way a mechanical computer works. Mm-hmm. You run a program with certain data, and if you could run exactly the same program with exactly the same data, you will get exactly the same results every single time. You don't have a choice about that. What you do have a choice about is changing the program, or potentially replacing the program, or changing the data that you feed it.
Yes.
That's how you get a different outcome.
Yes.
But that's the thing that we can't do, is because if we went back, that's the thing. Know what I know now, I would, still do the same thing. No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But you have the choice of not going back, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I would do. I'm like, no, I don't want to go back. I mean, like, been there, done that, survived it, overcame it, and am using it in a positive way. So no, I wouldn't want to change the past.
It's interesting because my co-host Gabby likes to ask these questions, and kind of one of his favorites is framed along this line of, if you could take a pill and everything would be wonderful from now on, and you would never know pain, suffering, anything, would you do it? And the women who get that question have been 100% right now, no, no question. And we had one girl who said, I signed up when I came into this plane, I signed up for the total experience being a human. And, I get it. I understand. But Gabby's waiting for that person who's going to go, oh, hell yeah, I take it. Out of everything.
I know a couple people who would say, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I would say no, because, it's all that imperfection that makes life so beautiful, right? I mean, like, I used to live in California like you, and I took the weather for granted. It was just always nice. And now that I'm in a place that get really cold, I appreciate those warm days so much more. And I like that. I like, being able to really just appreciate every single moment. Does that mean you have to be in pain or suffering? No. But the not so good really make the good even greater, right?
Right. Yes. Well, so we're recording this. It's late January, and
it's cold here. Very, very cold.
It's 80 something here at my house.
Oh, we're in the 20s.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. But every year seems like it's middle of February or something, and I will be, as I'm grinding my teeth over how expensive it is to be here, and traffic and this and that, and then I will realize it's middle of February and I'm riding around with my windows down in the car, because then maybe the AC on, because it's too hot. And then I go, oh yeah, maybe it's not so bad.
Right. Yes. I have the luxury of working from home, so it's 75 degree right now.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. What was I going to ask you? Just like that. I look in the mirror every morning, I make a new friend.
I love it.
Some of you'll get that later. And I apologize, this is not good radio or good TV.
Should I sing or something?
Oh.
No, we don't want that.
Careful what you offer. In some of the stuff that you gave us in the hoops that I made you jump through to be a guest, you said, I love talking about mindset and how your thoughts and feelings create your reality.
Yes.
And that's one of the examples of, it's like, I wrote that. Where is she coming up with? How did she get that? It is so true, but it takes so long for us to truly wrap our minds around that sometimes. Not always, but it's an interesting, it's one of those, it's a rabbit hole topic, right? Because we could start down there and just be like 3 weeks later we'd come up for air. But so let me ask you this about that idea. What's your experience with the people that you work with in getting them to truly see that? Are they coming to you? I would think with you, it's not quite the same situation, I think, as some of the other people we've spoken to, where clients are coming and they're already pretty much predisposed in that direction. But with your clients, they're coming to you with problems to deal with, right? We've got issues to overcome, and so this is a huge piece of the puzzle, I would think. So what's your experience in working with people to take them in that direction?
So one of the things that I love so much is that the clients that I attract are people who are ready.
Mm.
I mean, yeah.
So you're going to give me the same answer.
No,
That's
no,
okay. Go
no.
ahead.
It's what you said a moment ago is what you ask the universe for, the universe deliver.
Yeah.
That's what I ask for. I ask for people who are ready to make the transformations and just don't have the steps. So, they're there with an open mind, and they've been hurting for such a long time that they are willing to try something brand new. Now, does that mean they are a complete ace student and do all the homework? Absolutely not. I mean, some of them, I might have to have 4 sessions on the same exact thing for them to go, okay, I totally get it now.
Right.
But oftentimes it's a lot faster because, again, the way that I practice is focusing on the 4 problems. And the story that you tell yourself about a situation, those don't matter to me at all. Those are only stories. Those are only the evidence of why you're suffering. So we go deeper really fast. The way that I was trained to ask questions, we get to the root within like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, like things that would normally not come out in traditional counseling for months, if not years, we're there in 10 to 15 minutes because all we're doing is chasing the emotion. The emotion is what's really important, not the story surrounding the emotion.
I like that. Are you an Esther Hicks Abraham fan?
A little bit.
Because it's very much what she talks about, and her thing is let your emotions be your GPS system.
It is. It's a great GPS system because once you recognize that, you can figure things out a lot easier. So like for me, my negative, like when I become the not so nice Jacqui, I'm like 95, 96% Miss Happy, Miss Sweet Jacqui. Now, not back then. But the small percentage of me that is a complete horror still comes out. And I'm always triggered by the same exact emotion. The story might be different, but the emotion that I feel is always the exact same emotion, and that is disrespect. So when somebody does something that makes me feel disrespected, that's when I have my knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
And in the past, I would blow up, I would throw things, I would yell, I would scream. But now, I'm in a place that I have a lot more awareness. And so when I recognize I'm being triggered, I silently thank the person that triggered me, because that person just showed me that there's a part of me that is not healed yet. And that's a part of me that I can learn to love even more, so that when someone does something, I don't take it as a disrespect against me. And I take it as this is what they're doing because that's the best that they can do in that moment.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you've got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.